Hey, glad you could make it. Welcome to Fantasy Dad Pods, where dad bods are glorified and dad jokes are encouraged. I'm JT, accompanied by Sean. Sean, how we doing?
We're doing pretty good. Before I get started, we were out for a couple weeks. It's the summertime, so I had work trip. JT had a family vacay, so it's kind of like with you have the kids in school, so your vacation time is kind of set. I haven't got there yet, but it starts next year, so
Yeah.
it's going to become a kind of our yearly hiatus during the summer when we're both on vacay. So we might have to have a joint vacay so we can record at the same time at the same place, like a
On
theme park, like
location.
on location at some theme park or whatever it is. Like
Not Williamsport or
we could always go to
something.
Williamsport. That is always like a plan. I think that we would probably enjoy the out of all the family members, included the boys, we would probably enjoy that the most.
Yeah. There's some city that has like a baseball field that's an Airbnb. You
Oh, I have
could
seen
look
it. It's like
that
a
up.
double A or triple A stadium or something like that,
The
or it looks like
former.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yes.
suites were turned into like Airbnb
Yes.
condos and you can play on the baseball field.
Yes. Yes.
You need
I've
to find out.
seen something like that on Twitter a long time ago. I remember. But yeah, and judging by both of our, we have some facial hair in this chat right now. It has been it's been a lot of work for the two of us. It sounds like right now we have not got to trim anything up right now.
Nope.
So, yeah, we went to the fair this weekend. I don't know if you were able to make it. You didn't. I mean, it was fine. My son was telling someone I used to work with that we were buying a goat. So,
Oh.
news to me. Came up to a person told me like, "Oh, you're buying a goat." I'm like, "I'm not buying a goat. We're not. What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, your son's going to buy a goat." That's good for him. We crammed everybody in the back of the car, and I don't know where that goat is going to fit. No, like the wife had to sit between the two kids' car seats because we were cleaning the other car because from our last trip to Seattle, they made the car stinky. So we had oh man, I can't remember. I was gonna give him a plug. Oh man, I'll feel I'll get it by the end of the podcast. But shout out is coming. Great, does great work. But he had to clean our car because it still smelled a little bit from our Seattle trip. It's got to be one of the kids and food, and you know how that goes. Like somewhere
Yeah.
back there's some old food, and I suctioned everything out, couldn't get it. I'm like, look, this guy's cleaned the car before. Let's do it. So we did that this weekend. He loved the animals. We didn't ride any rides because the prices. I don't want to get into it too much. The local one, but it was astronomical. It was a little ridiculous, but he had fun for what it was. Did that, and then Sunday was Dad Pulls Weeds Day.
There you go.
And the hammies they are burning today.
Got to maintain
Monday
the dad summer bod for the
they
last of
are.
this.
It is rough, and so I did that. Yeah, that was the weekend. Did a lot of weeding. I'm not done. I'm like barely halfway, maybe. So it's great to when the kids want to help, and the youngest has become mobile, and I mean
Yeah.
like actually mobile. So he's cruising the backyard, and then all of a sudden a rock hits the fence because he's chucking it, and he's like 1.5, and I'm like, okay, that's heads up. Like I gotta be. He doesn't know what I'm doing, and he has no control over that cannon. So it's just
Nope.
like we're flinging this thing, and I'm like, okay. The older boy proceeded to run around in his rain boots and just kick stuff the
Kick
entire time.
rocks. Yeah.
So yeah, that was. I'm trying to pull weeds, and they're trying to help, and poor grandma's over there trying to wrangle the boys, but it's already full on like mode. And I had someone at work ask me like, "Hey, a third?" And I'm like, "Are you? You should have seen this Sunday. Like trying to pull weeds, and they're just going. You know, JT, they're just going, and you're like, one person can't even handle both. I'm like, no, we're
Yeah.
not throwing a third in the ring. And you know, as this podcast would be, it'd just be another boy because that's what this podcast does. It's just boys. So
Yeah.
it would have just been a third boy, and the other two are wrestling now. That's what they did after their bass today. So it's just like I don't need to
Feral.
throw a third stick of dynamite in there. Like we don't need it. We don't need it in the ring. So yeah, that made this Sunday I was pulling weeds, and I'm like, we are definitely done. like watching Grandma try to chase the two. Yeah, like no. So while the wife was vacuuming up, the dog just sheds like it's like a I don't what like what sheds more than a dog, but it's something. Like it's just like she shakes and then a whole other dog shows up. Like so, I think we got 2 dogs out of that a vacuum cleaner just from doing the downstairs, which she after she vacuumed. So I got everybody outside and so she could vacuum inside, and it was just
Oh yeah, the dog
allergies going
mats.
crazy. Allergies going crazy.
We had 2 dogs forever, and then we had a third, and then one passed away. Now we re-added a third, if you will. And I don't know how dog math works on picking up poop, but when you have 2 dogs, it's X amount of poop. But when you have 3 dogs, it's 2X amount of poop. It
Yeah.
doubles somehow by only adding 50% more dog. I
Uh,
don't know how that works, but it's happened both times.
just
So yeah, and
they
both
talk each other, they
dogs,
psych each other up. Like you got to poop again. You got to poop.
yeah. And the golden retrievers, they shed quite a bit too. So yeah, and my office right now that I'm recording in has the dog door. Everything is covered in a disgusting amount of layer of dust in here, like never ever seen before. And I almost want to just concrete the whole dog around or astroturf it or something. It's ridiculous. He's like a mop, and he's a dry mop, and he shakes himself out in here, or he's a wet mop when we play out back. He loves the water. But yeah, it's just
Duh.
if it's
Would
not one thing, it's the other. But I agree with oh, more kids. No, I need moments of confirmation that
yeah, that
that
was
two's good.
the clarity. Yeah, the guy who cleaned our car today was like, "There's a lot of dog hair." And I was like, "Yeah, I know." like I don't know how she does it. Like, and you got medium sized dog. I would say medium. You know, maybe I mean, depending on the person's definition, but I'd say medium. Ours is like 17 pounds, and she sheds like she should be 400 pounds. I don't get it. And the thing is too, like I don't know if dogs activate this, but when we drive the car, like going to Seattle, and you have like if you're passing somebody, because we go by the or when we go to Portland, we're going to like on the down by the river first down there. So it's a 2-lane road, and there's a lot of semi trucks. So you can pass the semi trucks, you go over the median, you know, they're doing 45, you go 60, it's fine, but there's those little bumps in the road, you go over them,
Right.
and she gets very nervous and she starts shaking, and that's when the shed, like she activates you could see her activate the shedding, and it's just like and I'm just like, oh my gosh, like what happened? And it's a black interior white dog. I'll let you guys at home figure that out. Like it is, my wife is literally, we had to buy a lint roller just for her because so she could hold on a dog because she wants to jump on me the entire time while I'm
Hmm.
driving, so she could hold on the dog and just like be covered in dog hair. We had to get a special lint roller for the car. It's that bad.
She's like a
It's that bad.
self-regulating chia pet.
Watched it happen in real time. I was like, you just turned on whatever it is. So
Wow.
yeah, it's crazy. Well, I guess JT, how was your trip
It was
dogless to Hawaii?
it was good. Still had kids, in-laws, and a brother-in-law. So I mean, like, it wasn't just the wife and I enjoying our 10-year anniversary, but everyone came in tote. And I mean, have you been to Hawaii? Have you gone?
No, no, my wife
I
has, but
just
I have not.
just take the wife and go. Don't
Bring the
don't
kids.
worry about anybody else. You can do anything else in the United States lower 48 that you can do. Like, you don't
Yeah.
need just take you to. Like, it was fine. It was fun. Um, as expected, had a couple hiccups, makes the story funny, but overall it was good. We had like one main activity a day, and then we just got to hang out in the afternoon, beach or pool, and then grab dinner somewhere. Um, saw turtles, saw stingrays, saw sharks, saw pet a dolphin. Yeah, all the good stuff. And me being the Slurpee lover, um, there's a place called shout out Ululani's, and it's hotter than fire. It's Gen Z lingo. It's fire. It's lava.
Hotter.
There you go. It's lava because we're in Hawaii. It was so good. You didn't need teeth. It was so smooth, and it was just so delicious. And I miss it. And we had it every day, and that should be no surprise to you or anyone else who knows me, or my wife. Yeah, we had it every single day. We even Ubered on the last night just to go get it.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
Um,
gosh.
I have a
Hey,
new
you're on vacation,
flavor.
right? You're on
Yeah,
vacation.
yeah, I have a new flavor in the rotation, but it was only a local flavor. It's called calamansi, and it's like a sour lemon lime type of vibe.
You're kind of a lemon
Um,
guy, like a little yellow. Everything yellow is kind of your
yeah,
go-to. Yeah.
yeah. So it was really good. Um, but then we got back, and glutton for punishment, the oldest, he's rolling into third grade, but he still had a Silverwood ticket he earned from reading. We didn't get to use it because when we were going to use it, I looked at the forecast and it was in June. It was like high 56, 25-mile-an-hour winds,
Yeah.
thunderstorms. I was like, we're not going. So, and then the rest of our summer is just so packed busy. It was like, so we literally got back on a Wednesday, recuperated Thursday, and we went to Silverwood day trip up and back, full day. Got to do everything. It rained on us in the second half, so there was like no lines for all the amusement park rides, but for the water stuff, like it was still pretty, like it was
Warm
decent.
rain. Yeah. Yeah.
It didn't rain us on the water park thing. We were
Okay.
just like, okay, let's go, and it started. It was a good transition. The youngest is unfazed. We did that new to us. I think it was new last year. Stunt pilot, like you're in a dogfight in a
Oh, okay.
like your own individual cockpit, giggling the whole time. And I'm just like, oh gosh, like this is fun, but I was like,
Yeah.
I'm crammed in there. I'm just too tall.
Yeah.
And the oldest, who's 8, he just kind of was like, yeah, this is fun, and yeah, no, I don't need to do that again. Like I one and done. So it was fun. Oh, also had a goat story when you mentioned the goat thing, because you were, like people believe your kid when you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
we're getting a goat.
Yeah.
Well, we had our first flag football practice for the youngest for the U5 team, and I'm coaching, and so we're introducing ourselves, meet and greet, and then this kid's like, yeah, and I have 3 goats, and I'm just like,
Okay.
haha, cool, like stuffed animals or
Yeah.
something. He's like, no, I have 3 goats, and their names are this, this, and that. And I look at the parents, and I'm just like, I don't want to like not believe your kid, but like it's very uncommon to have goats. I
Yeah.
feel like, and the parents are just nodding their head. Yep, we got 3 baby goats, and I was just like, oh, cool. So in my regard, I didn't think the kid was telling the truth, and he was. So you never
Oh
know with
man,
these things.
you
When they're,
got it. Yeah.
4 or 5 years old, you honestly, it's flipping a coin whether they're just bold faced lying or.
You never know with kids. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Goats.
So yeah, yeah. So yeah, flag football season is upon us. Fantasy baseball season for playoffs are upon us. Fantasy football season is upon us. There's a lot going on. And summer's ending and school starts tomorrow. It's just there's a lot of things, but
I
um,
I found that out today. School starts tomorrow.
yeah, yeah, it's all good. We got first day, wardrobe all picked out, and youngest doesn't start till Thursday, but he's in kindergarten, so my Fridays are going to be wide open. I don't. I feel like I'm going to have a honeydew list. I feel like I'm going to be like a lot of lumber and sawing and measuring and drilling in my future. Like I think I have a lot of stuff to build. I'm
Well,
I'm worried.
well,
So
you to get that astroturf out there like you said you were gonna
yeah, yeah, might have to.
do. You said that was with like, yeah, yeah. I guess we're gonna do that. Yeah.
I don't want to wrap my head around that yet. What I do want to do is talk some fantasy sports because that's what we're here to do.
That's what.
Episode 99 overall. We're
Uh,
here.
you're a judge,
Let's
right?
do it.
99.
99? Yeah.
99. But not the longest home run.
No. So far, pretty much for the month of August, I don't know if he needs to re-hit the weight room or re-shock the traps to finish, but
I mean, he's hitting everything for a home run, but it's just not the farthest.
right.
Yeah, it seems like he's hit like a billion home runs, but they just never seem to. They're not up here. But number one, Jesus Sanchez, 480. That'll work. That'll play.
Yeah, that was like the day after we last recorded earlier in August. It was
Yeah,
just that was a laser.
yeah. That was. We see Otani. Congrats on 40-40, by the way, Otani.
So
I I had a buddy. She was like, "Oh, you think he'd go 50-50?" I'm like, "I don't know." And then he hit 2 dingers. I was like, "Maybe." I was like, "I don't." I was like, "He's got a month left," and it was like 2. I was like, "Okay, probably. Like maybe at this point. Like I don't doubt him now."
I just never I never thought they'd let him run this much, but kudos. I mean, it was always like Acuna if he had a fully healthy season, like 2023, he had the 40-40.
He's not even fully healthy, which is like the stupidest part. He's got repaired shoulder or repaired arm, like, and he's like, I'm just gonna go 40-40, the fastest ever, no big deal. Like, no big deal. It's just amazing.
It's
It's just,
ridiculous.
it's just, yeah.
Pete Alonso on here twice?
Big Petey, there we
God.
go.
Did
I'm
you
giving
see
him a
the
new nickname. New nickname,
Big Petey?
Big Petey.
Immediately think of Dumb and Dumber. Did you see his recent celebration? He's
No, I
just
did not.
like he's kind of hip thrusting a lot, and people are like, "Wow, this might be too much, Pete." He's just going. He's
It's
just so excited.
that team's fighting, I guess, for a playoff spot. I get, yeah. I mean they are, but like, yeah, it's just they're in a weird spot. Jackson Merrill. We'll have to talk about this later, but like, I was congratulating a buddy like a month ago or so, maybe a month and a half ago. I was like, hey, Paul Skeens, rookie of the year, no big deal. Jackson Merrill was like, hold my beer real quick here. Like, man, who? Okay, right now, who's the rookie of the year? JT, Jackson Merrill, Paul Skeens.
Oh my gosh.
I know. There's really not a wrong answer because I mean, I guess depending on the fan base, there's probably a wrong answer. But in the general baseball, I don't know if there's a wrong answer. But
I'd be okay with either. I feel like it's just like I'm trying to think real baseball, not fantasy, not
yeah,
pop
yeah.
culture, like real baseball.
I
I
mean,
still feel like it was Skeens. That run of just like, yeah, I feel like it's
even
Skeens
fantasy
still
baseball,
probably
they're
has
probably
it.
1-2 anyways for rookies. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's more. I like the idea of like obviously the player who plays every day is going to be more valuable technically, but that's not really the point of the rookie of the year. I feel like that's not in the spirit of who's more valuable. It's just like the best rookie, and I mean, Paul Skeens has just been so good.
Yeah.
Like Paul Skeens compared to other pitchers is better than Jackson Merrill compared to other hitters. I feel like, right?
Yes, I think that's kind of what's going on in the background of my when you were
Yeah.
asking it. That's a really good way to put it.
So I think it's gotta be Skeens, but like Jackson Merrill's he's been on one. I'll tell you what.
Still
So
got a month left,
that's, I mean, I thought it was over a month ago, and he's like, hold on. So if he keeps going this route, I mean, I probably got to give it to him. But barring him staying this hot, yeah, it's been really fun to watch. He's been trying to help my fantasy team save it, but I don't know if it's gonna be, it might be a little too late. But good to see a Dust Devil Zone Charlie Blackmon 450 number 8 in this run here. Sandwich between Stanton and Jorge Soler. I have to say his full name. I don't know why. But good for you, Charlie, the bearded one. Still getting it done.
yeah,
Some
old man
respects.
strength right there.
There you
Not
go.
just dad strength, but he's got like grandpa strength. No,
Yeah.
his beard isn't great unless he dyes it. Sorry, I'm going into a rabbit hole. I'm gonna stop myself there. Who
Let's see.
who did I just Yanier Diaz?
Yes.
Man,
Yes.
he's got that lower half, badonkadonk strength. He's a catcher, so you gotta watch out for those guys.
Always the Badonkadonk, the brother Corey Seager, doesn't quite have the tush the older brother Kyle had, but still gets it up there 450. So I appreciate the effort. Appreciate that. Let's see who's the hardest one. See, I got Judge has got to be here, right? On the hardest hit ones. He's
No,
still
it's your other boy.
O'Neal Cruz. Did you see this update today with O'Neal Cruz?
No, I didn't.
He's gonna play outfield. Yeah.
Why?
Uh,
He does
dude,
commit a lot of errors. I mean, he's got.
that was always going to be the issue, and we'll probably talk about this more in the offseason, but like, do the Pirates have a guy coming that plays shortstop? I feel like I should know, but I don't off the top of my head. Do you know somebody, JT? I don't see anybody here who's a highly rated Mitch Jacob, I guess, or 30, no? Jack Marion. I guess ninth overall prospect, Jack. 23-year-old in dub and high A. That's pretty high. I mean, it's not pretty high, but it's not young for that level. I don't know. I'm like, I get it because, like, to your point, I feel like they have a couple shortstops in low A, but like, if he can't Hackett maybe at shortstop, which is always a very reasonable question with his defense and everything like that.
Right.
Moving him, but who do you play at shortstop then? You know what I mean? You've got to play someone there.
IKF. I mean,
But like, is IKF
kind of
really
flat.
gonna? Do you really want him to play every day? Does that, you know what I mean?
No,
Like
that's true.
long term, like I mean, rest of this year that's fine. You're not, like whatever there, but like like next year going in, you're really gonna start with IKF as
No,
a 30-year-old
no.
IKF as your everyday shortstop?
Yeah. I mean, was it put in a context of for the rest of the season or just like,
I just saw the highlight. I didn't get a chance to click on it. It said he will
okay,
play outfield. So I'm thinking obviously because it's like let's get him some reps, real game reps, end of the season. We're not competing for anything. Let's get him used to it. Makes sense, but then I'm like, okay, play IKF for the remainder of the year, but you've got to have a plan after this year. There's 30 games left in the season. What after these 30 games are you going to do? So, I guess Nick Gonzalez could play shortstop. I guess, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, I do see Nick Gonzalez coming off the IL, and that's probably spurring this whole conversation of
yeah,
wanting all the bats in the lineup. I mean, technically, O'Neill DH'd most recently,
yes.
but then if you can't, I mean, you don't always want to do that. He's just a big athletic dude. I don't know.
Then
I
who's
remember,
playing? You know what I mean? Who's playing second? You're shuffling the chairs. You still got to find a guy. I mean, I guess IKF at second is more doable than shortstop. You know what I mean? Like the bat wise, you're like, okay, well, at least I don't have a huge hole at a hole at second base is more understandable than shortstop. But like, still, IKF playing every day for you. I just feel like,
yeah, I remember watching a Ball Glove King episode on YouTube. Shout out. Um, Doing some research on baseball gloves, and he did reference O'Neill Cruz as being he's an alien. He's just a
oh
big
yeah,
dude, big hands, and he has an unusual type of glove for shortstop. I forget the specifics, but it's just like it kind of attributed to why he has his glove set up the way he does. But I feel like overall, real baseball terms, he does commit probably too many errors, and it's
yeah,
probably just because the ball is so small. It's like a Shaq shooting a free throw, like whereas in an outfield position, he could cover a ton of ground, and
yeah,
he probably just wears a normal glove. It isn't even an outfielder glove. Like,
yeah.
could you
It's
imagine outfielder glove on those hands? Like,
yeah.
he could.
Seriously. Yeah, it's the idea of like levers, and how tall he is, getting down to simply feel the ball is going to be harder than someone who's shorter. It's more,
Hmm.
it's like the idea of bench pressing when you have longer arms, and that's why all the highest people who bench press are shorter because it's just less to put the bar up. You know what I mean? And
Right.
it's just you're going to be better defense in general if you're just lower to the ground and there's less levers to activate to field the ground ball. And it's always been something. Could he overcome that? And I mean, athletically, probably yes, but just like still, there's a lot of moving parts to fielding shortstop. Shortstop is not easy position, and it's just like, could he keep going? And that was kind of an issue. And it was always kind of rumored he was going to find his way to the outfield, and maybe they're trying it now at 25, which again, not the worst idea. Get him used to his position long term, but I
Right.
just saw it today, so I was just like, oh
Yeah. If I were to relate it, it'd be back in my day, because we are dads, so that's how we
yeah,
have to talk.
we can
Back
say
in
that
my
now.
day, it'd be like I played co-ed volleyball. I'd be like, hey guys, I'll take everything above the net. You get it if it goes below. I'm not diving for a ball. Although because I had some mad hacky sack skills, I had a lot of foot saves. Not gonna lie,
There you go.
got pretty
There
good
you
with
go. Are
that.
foot saves allowed? You can't kick. You can kick it, right? Just as long as it doesn't touch the ground, right?
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I shout out a coworker Charlie. He volleyball guy. When the Olympics were going on, I'd message him like, "Hey, volleyball stuff," and he'd be like, he'd shoot me a message and respond to my volleyball questions.
There
And
you
he's
go.
like, "Oh, I like shorter guys, the libero." And I was like, "Oh yeah." And he's like, "Oh, you could do that." And then like minutes later, they show a highlight where the guy gets 10 feet in the air and hits it 117 kilometers an hour. I was like, no, like, no, like, my job's to receive that. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, to the face. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
no, like,
Back row, 40-inch vertical, and he's just coming downhill
Yeah,
from like
down, like,
11 feet
it's
in the
like
air.
71 miles an hour, because that's what it works out to be. Like, no, like, absolutely not. Like, good, have fun playing that sport. Like, I'm not doing it. So, yeah, shout out for that one. Thanks for that. It was just funny. Like 5 minutes later, I was like, no, because they showed on the
Short-lived.
Olympics. They show the height and the velocity, and I was like, I'm immediately no, immediately.
Keeping it
Height and
real though.
weight. O'Neal Cruz 119, hit 119. Otani, again, we just talked about dude's an alien. 117.1 off this guy named Aaron Nola. Let me know if you heard of him. Just raking, dude. Just raking. Jesus Sanchez is up here a couple times.
Yeah. Well, that one time was 116. That's how you get 480. You got to get that
That's you don't hit
optimal
you don't hit
launch
cheapies
angle.
480. Yeah.
Jordan Alvarez, he's so low key, but he's so good. I just sometimes forget how good he is until I'm like reminded every once in a while.
It's
I
always
think I just mentally
like
shun the Astros.
when the Mariners play the Astros, I'm like, oh yeah, he just like
Exactly.
it's always just like I watched his home run down just now, JT, and it is a laser. Like it is just like, and it just goes like straight out. Like it is just like, yeah, he just hits it so hard, and he goes down and gets it too. It just feels like it's one of those guys where he's like big and strong, and it's clearly natural because like he makes contact. You're like, oh, I went down and got it, and you're like, oh, it's still going, and it's over the wall. You're like, oh my
Mm-hmm.
gosh, like he went down and got it. I feel like Griffey did that a lot growing up too. It's always something about those lefties. You're like, oh, he got a decent stroke on that. What is it going to land, bounce, and then roll the wall? I'm like, no, it cleared the wall. Okay, makes sense. Just it's that strength, it's that tookus. You can't teach that, JT.
No. Speaking of which, Votto, talk about saving your season.
Oh my gosh.
Too bad Mariners didn't trade for him.
I shout out another shout out Andrew. He's like we've had a bet since he was like before he was a rookie that he's a generational talent. And we also of course had to narrow down what generational talent meant. And I was like, top whatever 10 player in baseball. Even then I don't know if that's generational, but like that's more Mike Trout territory. But like I'll give it to you if he's like top 10 even in baseball. And he had that 1 year, 2 years ago. We talked about it several times on this podcast. And then other than that, he's been like a sub 800 OPS. And he went off this year. And I get off, I'm getting home from work on the plane tarmac, and he's like generational talent. And I go, the man has the same number. What was it? The same number of OPS seasons over 850 as like it was like Mitch Morris or something Morris or something like that. I'm like, just settle down. He needs to have like one more season above average for me to like anoint him generational. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was like,
yeah.
I'm rooting for him. I don't dislike Vlad Guerrero Jr., but I'm just like I gotta see it, and he's doing it this year. He's doing it for sure. So, I just was like, you said it, like saved the season. He's just been going scorched earth on everybody right now. So, yeah, it's. Gosh, he hits the ball so hard, but that launch angle, man, it's -8 on that hit that ball, JT.
Yeah.
-8.
He's so good in Seattle. You don't need to hit it over the fence. Just hit it hard.
I was gonna say, like, everyone is like, oh, he just hits it, blah blah blah. I'm like, if he just hits it hard and it doesn't get elevated, so it doesn't really matter. Like, oh, and by the way, what was it? Jordan's is like 18 launch angle of 18 is just a laser. Just a laser. For context, Jesus Sanchez hit his 480 at 27. Jordan was at 18. He's like, I'm just gonna laser this thing out of here. Shohei Ohtani up here a number more times. Bobby Witt. I would like to. I call what Bobby Witt's doing is the Josh Allen effect. Everyone talks about Mahomes, aka Aaron Judge, but Bobby Witt needs a lot of credit for this season. Yeah. Dude has been a dude, and that's overall baseball, but also obviously fantasy wise with the bat. Been a dude, and no one's going to talk about him at the end of the season, and more people need to talk about him because I mean, number one keeper, like keeper leagues, like dynasty leagues. JT, you think? Got to be right. Bobby Witt.
Yeah, I was gonna almost look up WAR because his defense is so good in real life.
I thought of a week ago they were. I think he had 0.1 over Judge, I believe.
I would have.
But Judge just has all these dingers that it's just like I don't see how they're gonna. Oh, never mind. That was a while ago. Judge has proceeded to hit probably a billion more home runs since I said it. So he's got 9.6 to 9 WAR. Judge's WRC plus is 230 on the season. So I'm just, like, my God, man.
Yeah, but still, Witt is top for defensive WAR contributed to like any one player.
I mean, there's a month left in his 9 WAR season. Let's put it in context. Juan Soto's going absolutely bonkers and is over one less, 7.8. It is these two dudes, and then everybody else is playing a different baseball game. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, if it wasn't for the Patrick Mahomes, everyone would be freaking out about Bobby Witt. But there's a Mahomes guy. I'm sorry, Josh Allen.
Quick pop quiz: who has the most like negative WAR on the season amongst qualified? So they gotta play enough, but
is it still White Sox?
Yep.
Benintendi.
Yep.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
Negative 1.3.
Oh, that is. He has 400 plate appearances that running out there. Goodness, let me see here. 73 WRC plus. I knew that because there's a watch going on one of the podcasts I listen to if he has the worst season in baseball history, according to WAR. There is a watch list. I believe he's still on pace for it. So, sorry, Benintendi. Mariners also were talking about signing him, so there we go. We talked about Benintendi, so could go either way. Number 3, Ty France. Sorry, on the WAR worst WAR seasons. Okay, he's right there. Yeah. Let's see who else. Who else is dinger worthy? Let's get to Paige, JT. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's just keep it rolling. We always talk about the dad strength, but let's make sure they're gonna get paid. So we got our metric all tweeted out at Fantasy Dad Pods. You can find us on the X. But essentially, to recap, paid is an acronym, and it consists of their plate discipline. So that's our own WPDI metric, which is just like, balls and strikes. So we have our own metric there. And then I was wanting to see what like a breakdown of WOBA could look like. So WOBA sometimes I feel like is like artificially inflated by like guys who really walk well, and that's fine and dandy. But sometimes at the end of the day, you want dudes who rake. And so slugging percentage. So your slugging percentage on when you swing, and you add that in with our plate discipline metric, you get paid. And when you graph this out, our paid metric to the WOBA, getting a correlation of 95.5% with the R squared of 91. So what all that nerds out to saying is it's pretty dang close to WOBA, but at least with paid you can see the breakdown. And Aaron Judge is in another stratosphere. It's like if
he throws this off, like he's so green that everyone else looks bad.
Yeah,
it throws off the graph.
He's basically Pluto if everyone else was like in the asteroid belt.
Yeah,
he's just an alien.
Like really, like for context that people can't see it, you just need to go on Excel. Like when you start to get a little yellow, or what is it, orange or whatever you want to, from green to like yellow, it's like you're good. You're pretty good. It's like you're getting there at like 13th because Aaron Judge has broken the green scale because he's so green that it throws off like how green to yellow the other people could be for like the standard deviation. So it's just like he literally broke it. So removing him probably makes this graph a little easier, but that's how it happens.
Let's see. Quick math. There's only 138 qualified players so far this year, and the gap between number 130 and number 11, Vladito, is the same gap as Vladito to Aaron Judge.
Yeah. 1 to 12, just context. Yeah.
So it's
2 to 1 to 11 for context.
To really fully appreciate. Find this on Twitter when I tweet this out with the podcast when we release it. and look at this graph because it's ridiculous.
Yeah. It's pretty hilarious. But yeah, Aaron Judge, good at baseball, MVP. Soto's number 2, man. He's gonna. Speaking of getting paid, JT, dude's definitely getting paid. This offseason, that's for sure. What's the? I would say like out of the top ones here, I think we talk about him every time, but I think I think Ozuna being so high up surprises me. Number 4 hitter between Otani and Bobby Witt, but Anthony Santander at 13 behind Jose
Yeah.
Ramirez. Like, he's very high up here. Again, maybe one of the most overrated people because he's up here with some Bryce Harper, Corey Seagers, Vladito, Jose Ramirez territory. And Seiya Suzuki is right next to him too. So I feel like he needs to get more love than he's getting. It's all about those other kids in Baltimore. We talked about it last time. Anthony Santander, good at baseball.
Yeah. I mean, the only other names that kind of are like, oh, interesting is, well, Ketel Marte. Every time I see his name, I get a little sad the Mariners traded him.
Yeah.
Brent Rooker is having a career year. He's 10th so far in paid.
Riley Green.
But I agree with you. Suzuki just low key under the radar. I mean, with Santander, everybody's watching Baltimore. They're in first place for a reason.
Yep.
But man,
Riley Green just get it done.
Yeah, Quan quietly with that kind of injury hiccup, but he's top dog in plate discipline.
Yep.
So it really contributes to his paid metric. And that's kind of, if you're watching along, when you pull up the link on the far right, it's in red or blue, and blue would be your plate discipline is really boosting your paid metric, whereas if it's in red, your slugging is really
carrying the weight,
and that's just kind of showing you like which way it's weighted in terms of if we're equivalating this to, again, WOBA, which is kind of like the king of the hitting metric.
Yeah, there's multiple ways to get it done, and Quan is showing that.
Yeah,
he's right there with Freddie Freeman and Alex Bohm. Alex Bohm having a great year too. So sorry,
the one that I'm just like, Michael Busch, like really, Matt Vierling.
I mean, you maybe have heard his name referenced like 3 times, but he's. I mean, I remember him for nothing else other than in the 3-game series against the Mariners hitting a home run in every game because he had that streak of like 6 in a row, and we just caught the middle of it. That's what I remember. Michael Busch. I'm like, who? And he just kept hitting home runs. So that is why I'm aware of Michael Busch.
Yeah.
And I play fantasy, so but yeah, Michael Busch. But if that didn't happen to your team, it's safe to assume you might not know who Michael Busch is. Jesse Winker up here, next to Austin Riley, Matt Chapman. Just don't call it bounce back. It's bounce back.
Well, it was really just that first half of the season. I dropped him, so I don't know what he's been doing the last couple weeks. So.
He had a walk-off the other day, but yeah. Okay. Otherwise, yeah, you're probably. He's living off the Washington, but even if the year ends now, it's still a pretty healthy year it's considered a bounce back. I would consider a bounce back.
Yeah, and that'd be the interesting thing. I could pull the last 30 days on this and see how quickly this stabilizes with WOBA. That'd be an interesting kind of exercise.
Yeah. Look on the other side. I mean, also the one at the bottom is Julio Rodriguez. Still down there. Thought it was getting better, not getting better. Who else? Alex Verdugo. Hopefully you're healthy now and not allergic to your batting gloves. Maybe that'll help. That's crazy. That's a crazy story. I don't really know.
That's all.
It's been up for 3 years. He's been allergic to his batting glove for 3 years. Could you imagine being allergic to something for 3 years? It's part of your job and
part of your profession.
Multiple teams. So you can't even say oh, the Yankees dropped the ball. He's been on multiple teams, and team doctors' jobs to make sure you're okay. And he's been actively breaking out for 3 years.
It'd be like being allergic to your keyboard, like the certain special ergonomic plastic.
And then not getting diagnosed for 3 years. I'd use this every day, but not. It's okay. That's crazy. That's crazy. This is crazy.
You know what's crazy? Nolan Gorman. His plate discipline is atrocious, and yet he's still in the red in terms of contributions. So that means his
It's
hitting is what's helping his
helping him.
quote unquote. He's
I
at
don't
the bottom
remember. I don't remember
15.
his play discipline being that bad.
I agree.
I mean, I never would consider him like having a great eye, but like did stand out because like right now it is awful, and just like you chalk it up to maybe like a year where just like you got to get your head on straight again. You know, try something new. You know, like we'll figure it out. But like I just feel like this has to be. It's so bad. It's one of those like it's got to be like an anomaly, right? Like never had to play discipline like this. It's just going when it goes wrong, it goes wrong. Hit the reset button. Let's try it again. I feel like as bad as it sounds. It feels like it's so bad. It's got to. It's like there's some silver lining in it. It's just like
Right.
okay, like you've never shown this before. Like let's just reset it. Try it again.
Yeah, this is your 10th percentile outcome.
Yeah, yeah. Like I feel like
Yeah.
this is not who you are. It never has been. You'll be fine. Corbin Carroll climbing up this thing again, kind of having a resurgence. So that's nice to see in the green for sure.
Yeah, his play discipline has been good all season.
Yep.
Whether
Finally
you
getting
believe
some
it
balls
was,
to actually do things that.
yeah, whether you
Yeah.
thought it was legit struggle or just unlucky, he's always had really good play discipline, which
Yep.
is kind of the foundation of what this also that's always been a positive all year. And
Yeah. So yeah.
Tovar being really horrible at play discipline, but their number 2 hitter in Colorado is just
Oh, Tovar. Yeah.
an irony of playing in
Yeah.
Colorado.
Just swing hard.
Just got a kick out of it.
Swing hard. Again, slugging is hitting is what's helping him. So not just swing hard in Colorado. see what happens.
Right.
Yeah, it's fun stat. So you should check it out when we post it. It's really fun. I enjoy it. I enjoy checking all the tabs too. WPDI on there. It's pretty groovy. Aaron Judge broke the chart again. It's funny. Sorry, I just saw the chart.
And then shameless plug. So either tweet us if you got questions, or go back on previous episodes and listen. We give more in-depth explanation of PDI or what this paid metric is. But
you need to do it just to see the graph, everybody. Like, you know what dot is Aaron Judge. Like
should that just be our banner for a little bit, or for the?
Honestly, it should just be a picture of WP paid. It should just be that, and be like, and it should be like, guess who Aaron Judge is.
Right.
Like, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's hilarious though. I love it. All right. I guess we got to switch over to the other sport. That's offensive to all other sports, but the other sport we talk about, because we don't talk about hockey on this podcast. Not till the Sharks get better, then we'll bring in fantasy hockey.
We used to play it. We used to play all the fantasies.
It's just hard. It's just hard now. I think it's hard to field a competitive 12 team. Or if you guys know people, because we would always play with people who I don't think you knew, other than like Sidney Crosby. You know what I mean? Like, I want people who know.
I just remember the years we played fantasy hockey, which was probably like well over a decade ago.
Yeah, 9, 10. Yeah.
One of the default stat categories was penalty minutes, and if you had more, that was a good thing. And
yes,
as like a generic fan of hockey, I never understood that.
Yeah. And then the other one is the notorious plus minus, which is like the stupidest thing ever. That one always bugged me too. It was the plus. It's funny you said penalty minutes, and that would bug me, but I always was like focused on plus minus. I'm like, why is this here? But like, it was so standard. And that was the thing. We were playing with some newer hockey people, so like going beyond that was like never in the question. Like they understood these like 9 or 8 categories, and we're like, okay, that's what we'll just work with, because I don't want to get too crazy for some people. But plus minus was just like broke my brain. I'm like, you can't do this. Like it's not how it works. But enough of fantasy hockey. Fantasy tennis also, let's do it. But we did play fantasy golf too. We were psycho mode for a while there, JT. Obviously fantasy basketball, but let's get to fantasy football. That's what we're here for. It's that time of the year again, and I want to start off. We're going to talk about like kind of like overall strategies, and I'm going to talk about not drafting Christian McCaffrey number 1 overall. It has nothing to do with his injury. There has never been a repeat top 3 fantasy runner who's finished number 1 the year before. since 2011, 2010, since AP did it his season. That was pre tearing his ACL. So it has not happened since modern football has been a thing. And I say modern football isn't like the nerds finally were like, hey, this football thing, let's find it and let's do the thing. So Christian McCaffrey, odds are, will not finish the number one. So I get why you draft him number one overall, because you want a safe bet. But with recent history, I would bet someone more like Breece Hall finishes number one. And I'd be willing to roll the dice with Breece Hall. Obviously, if it's a pass catching league, that changes things, but standard league, I will say Breece Hall finishes higher than Christian McCaffrey. There you go.
What is your definition of standard? Is it
so no points?
Kind of like
no points. So when you load up fantasy, the standard is quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, 1 flex, and there's no points for PPR. Now, most of leagues that are like more professional things will do a half point or something like that. But standard, as in like when you start up the league and don't make any changes, that is what the standard is. Most that because a lot of that goes from like home leagues, but like competitive leagues are different. But I'm speaking to the general like everybody, because there's a lot of people who are probably listening that are like just all across the spectrum. But no point PPR. Hall will finish above McCaffrey.
So if you have the number one pick and you're in this standard 0 PPR, are you taking a wide receiver? And if so, which one?
That's tougher. I would have been much more likely to take Justin Jefferson if their quarterback wasn't hurt, but he is. I also love Mike McDaniel. I'm going to do that every time in Miami. Big Tyreek Hill fan, or a big fan of Mike in his offense. So therefore, Tyreek Hill I think will go off. I probably do CeeDee Lamb though. He just signed his deal. He will be there. I think CeeDee Lamb's underrated. Dak Prescott is underrated as a quarterback. Dak Prescott is better than Tua. And I think they're just going to feed him. They're just going to feed that guy. So I would go CeeDee Lamb number one. Yeah. I think running backs, I get why the running backs go high. A couple of them do. But I'm all about receivers just having more valuable, even in standard leagues. They just split so much time, running backs. I just don't, not a huge fan. Yeah. What about you, JT?
I lean Lamb as well. I feel like the whole Jamar Chase thing is like maybe too many mouths to feed. T. Higgins is still there, legit, and I mean,
bro always gets hurt too. Like I just he always is nicked
something.
up. Yeah.
I was probably low on Jefferson, and then especially with the Mark McCarthy injury, it makes even more sense to be low on him.
I love their overall coach, and getting how they work with an offense, but I just don't know if Sam Darnold can make enough to make teams not just double and triple Justin Jefferson. You know what I mean? Like I just don't. I don't know if he's enough of a playmaker to take the heat off of that. So, yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, number one pick, I'd probably lean Lamb over Hill.
Now, when I say not drafting Chris McCaffrey number one overall, I'm not saying I'm not drafting him. Like he gets to 5, I'm like, you're crazy. You know what I mean? Like I'm snagging him, but like, I'm just saying like the history of repeating and health for running backs and all those touches and all these things, it just doesn't lead to back-to-back years of success for running backs. And so I think the Jets Hall with Rodgers playing a full season, with actually weapons, with a real offense, I feel like he's going to be in line for and I mean, I think he's a good player, obviously. I think he's going to be in line for a lot of touches and a lot of goal line stuff. A lot of these running backs, the problem with it is why I like Bijan Robinson, not simply because of talent, is everyone's talking about Saquon Barkley. Man, what does that quarterback there in Philly do all the time? Steal 1-yard touchdowns? Like, why am I drafting running backs who get their, Bills running backs, these mobile quarterbacks, like drafting Baltimore running backs super high, not looking at you, Derrick Henry. Like, they get some of these yards poached by their quarterbacks. And I'm just like, why do I want a running back who's going to get the most valuable 2 or 3 yards stolen by their quarterback within like the 5-yard line? I don't want I don't want my quarterback taking from my own running, or a quarterback taking from my running back. And I'm just like, that's why McCaffrey stays up, because his quarterback ain't taking that. Brees Hall, Aaron Rodgers ain't running anywhere. I got news for you. And neither is Kirk Cousins coming off a torn Achilles. So those three guys like have to be there because they're not getting any of those touches stolen from them. It's all theirs. Everybody else, these like Saquon, Jonathan Taylor, like that's a mobile guy over there. I really like him. We'll get to him later, that quarterback they got there. But I'm just like, I don't trust you to run in all the time. Kyren Williams too might be the guy with the Rams because Stafford ain't mobile at all either. Right. So I like that. But yeah, like that is a huge factor. That factor that I think a lot of people don't take into account is your quarterback going to steal this? Like Saquon Barkley shouldn't be 11th overall simply because of that. Not based on talent. Talent, he's great, but like the 2 1-yard touchdown runs are going to get poached by somebody. And that would drive me crazy. That would drive me absolutely insane.
Oh, I agree. And I think when it comes down to it, I've done a few mock drafts so far. If I'm in between a player or two, that's a deciding factor, especially at running back. If we're kind of focusing on that right now, it's Saquon's still being taken RB5.
Yeah.
You threw out Taylor, Derrick Henry's RB9 on average. I mean, some of those I would just be like, I'd hesitate, and I'd be like, you know what, Kyren Williams, I might lean that way a little bit more. Or,
yeah.
It's really tough, and obviously running back tiers and just the amount of viable running backs kind of dries up super quick. But that'd be something to definitely consider.
Yeah, like now if I'm really running the Baltimore Ravens, I'm not giving Lamar Jackson the ball inside the 5. I just got Derrick Henry. Like, I don't need him to get hit again. Hand the ball to the guy who weighs 250 pounds. And you're like, stop this guy inside the 5. But I don't know if they're going to do it. You know what I mean? Like, they haven't done it before. And I'm just like, they're just going to keep letting him get hit. That also makes me worried if I have stakes in Lamar Jackson. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't want him to get hit. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
All the time. But
yeah,
it's something you got to be, because he's not as big as Josh Allen. You know what I mean? Josh Allen, please get down Josh Allen. But like, that's a big boy, Josh Allen. So,
I think I've told you before, but my Josh Allen joke is I know 3 Josh Allens in this world. 2 are NFL players. They're both 6'5", but you know what? The other one I work with, he's also 6'5". So every single Josh Allen that I know is 6'5". It's just like a prerequisite.
There you go. It's just slide quarterbacks, like just across the board. Get down. Like, you don't need to truck people. You don't need. If you can run a little bit, that's totally fine, and I love it. But like some of these quarterbacks, like Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, like you're taking hits. I'm like, stop. Like, I've rostered both of you in leagues, and I'm like, just closing my eyes. I want you to run. I want those rushing yards, but like, just slide, get down. RG3 all over. I don't need to see it again. You know what I mean? I don't need to see a guy's knee give out going for a loose ball. Like, I don't need to see it. But yeah, I'm very much. It's obviously depends on your league and everything. But full point PPRs, I'm skyrocketing wide receivers at my board. Skyrocketing. Because the only one I really feel comfortable with catching passes is at a consistent rate that I feel comfortable with. I actually really like Jahmyr Gibbs catching passes.
Yeah.
And I really like Christian McCaffrey catching passes. But and then it's just wide receivers. I'm just feeding the wide receivers at that point. Because regardless of if I think Justin Jefferson is going to put up as many yards as I think he probably should if like quarterbacks were there, they're going to give him his touches if nothing else. He's going to get his touches. He's going to get those 100 catches. And that's what I care about in a full point PPR. Half point, which is the way everyone should be playing. Calling people out now. Should be playing half point PPR. That's where the conversation really gets between running backs and wide receivers. But I guess, JT, you're taking CeeDee Lamb number 1 overall. There's, let's say 12 teams in a league. Pretty standard. Mm-hmm. How many running backs are you comfortable taking in the top 12 first round?
In what kind of league, or just in
half
general,
point PPR.
like overall?
Pretty standard positions. 2, 3 wide receivers, whatever. Let's say 2 flex, and any of the top 12, like 12 picks. How many running backs are you willing to take in the top 12?
I got 4. I got McCaffrey,
Hall, McCaffrey,
Hall,
Robinson.
Robinson, and I'm Jonathan JT, obviously Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah. And letting Saquon fall out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are probably the ones that I let fall too. The one I would consider is Williams, actually, with the Rams. I like Williams and Gibbs a lot, but I
Hmm.
feel like Williams just. I mean, I love both OCs, but Sean McVay is. I mean, the dude's a genius. Like, so I just feel like setting up a running game, Kyron Williams is just. The only issue in the past has been they don't stick to a guy, and if they could stick to Williams, I think he's just going to go nuts. And I feel like that's going to be a top 5 offense overall for the season, like in real football. And in real football, if you're top 5, like, you're obviously going to have people fantasy wise produce for you. So I feel like he's just going to. I think he's going to be something special this year. So
Hmm.
I'm really big on Williams. So I feel like he might sneak in. Actually, I had him probably over. I go Gibbs over Saquon, and I go Williams over both of them. And man, I really want to believe in Derrick Henry, but I just don't. I don't know. So overall strategy, JT, like, when do you like taking quarterbacks? When do you like taking tight ends? You've been a guy, I think, in the past couple of years that I've never been much of a tight end guy. Like, high, I've noticed you have a couple times. Are you still feeling that vibes there? I mean, I know Kelsey's getting older, but like,
Yeah. Man, I think I still like Kelsey over Laporta.
yeah,
But I feel like they're just tier 1.
yeah,
Um,
just those two.
yeah. Because then for me, it'd be like McBride, Andrews, Kincaid on the next tier.
Yeah. So
Uh,
when like, I guess, like, obviously it depends on specifically where the draft falls and how it goes, but like, what's kind of like looking around 1, looking around 2, kind of where I know obviously it's where it falls, but like, is there like an ideal situation for you? Are you kind of looking at something like, because so
the
for me, I kind of want to get, at least in the first 2 rounds, if I go high and get a wide receiver, and it's more of if I'm drafting like 1, 2, or 3, something in there, and I'm getting the back end of 2, 3. If I get a
Mhm.
wide receiver 1 with my next 2 picks, rounds 2 and 3, I want to get at least probably a running back and a quarterback, because I'm very much like in one of the leagues I just got burned simply in not taking a quarterback, and it's just very hard, I feel like, to compete, especially with no there's running backs are, I think, easier to find. Wide receivers, you could kind of somebody could surprise you. Very few quarterbacks now surprise you. I feel like quarterbacks is pretty much set. So like
Mhm.
finding and hoping to fall into a quarterback. I used to do this every year, and you were always in the league, and I always would take a flyer on a running back who would, or a quarterback who would run. I'm like, let's just see what
Right.
happens. And it always worked out, or didn't always work out, but it always like usually had dividends. Like I was able to like stack prime Deshaun Watson and Mahomes on a team together. Like that was Mahomes MVP year, things like that, like Lamar Jackson, and the rest of the fantasy world has kind of caught up with that, and running quarterbacks aren't at a discount anymore. So I feel
Mhm.
like quarterbacks are just barring massive injuries, but even then their backup, like with running backs, like their backup comes in, and you're like, oh, they're going to give me some value. Quarterbacks doesn't really work that way. Like uh, Richardson went out for Indy, and Minshew wasn't fantasy viable. Like it didn't work that way. Like so, like I feel like I mean, I had to struggle to get 7th last year with Baker Mayfield and Geno Smith on my as my quarterbacks in one of the leagues, and I'm like, I can't be stuck in that position again, because I can't hope someone just randomly pops. And even then, Geno's like, he randomly popped. I'm like, it wasn't, but fantasy wise, it wasn't that good. Like I still needed more. So I
Right.
really, with that second, third pick, if I go wide receiver first in those really high in those 3, I really want to get quarterback, running back, because like you said, that drop off with running backs really happen. And if I'm down here at like, 24, 25, 26, if I could get a Pacheco to drop a couple spots, because some people want to get a quarterback, and I'm like, I think he's gonna be the dude there. Get a Pacheco, come back around. I don't know, uh, Mahomes or Jalen Hurts, or not to get specific, or Lamar Jackson, just a quarterback in that tier. Just from
Mhm.
looking at overall projections, I like to go that route, because I just can't be left without a quarterback again. It was just too bad. It was rough. It was real rough trying to find that uphill battle last year. What about you? What are you kind of thinking?
If we're still context of tight ends,
No, just like in
or
general
just in
overall
general,
fantasy, like kind of
early
like
out.
structure what you want to, what you try to mine was in the structure of what I like to avoid, but like, is there something you look for or want to avoid when it comes to the draft in the first couple rounds?
That's tough because it's just like I won't say value, but that's like the easy answer. I was thinking in terms of tight ends, so I'll just go with that
Yeah.
because that's in my brain. I feel like those top tight ends, fourth round, and I think it's kind of either way. If you're picking early in the round, then it'll come back around to you. I don't think you need to do it second, third on the turn. You can wait to the fourth, fifth turn. If you're middle round, it is what it is, and if you're like 10 through 12, I still think it's your second pick of the turn in that fourth round, unless you've got like that 10th or 11th pick, and you feel like you need to take it in the third, and you really are homeboy of like Laporta or something like that.
Yeah.
And I think the ADP plays out that way. On average, it looks kind of like early third round for those top two guys, and then at least the fourth round, maybe even to the fifth for the next handful of tight ends. So I do like taking tight end. I feel like it's like if I can get a really heavy offensive minded tight end, it's almost kind of having an extra flex, if you will. Especially for like Kelsey. He doesn't have like a dog number one wide receiver on his team. So
Nope.
he is that dude. Whereas like a Kincaid, I would be looking at as having that as well. There's not like a big name anymore in Buffalo. I'd like to get a couple shares of Kincaid, things like
I
that where it's
mean,
just
Mark
like
Andrews too, Baltimore. There's not.
yes, yep,
I mean, I guess you could say Zay, like, but not proven at least. You know what I mean?
right.
Like,
I mean, you could even go down and say like I think my dark horse for tight end is Jake Ferguson. I feel like he could have a really good year because other than CD Lamb, I don't know who Dak wants to throw to, but
yeah.
legit right there, target underneath. So tight end's fun. I feel like it's just kind of like a little bit of an underrated consideration, and I feel like the well runs dry really quickly in terms of just like either it's like a catcher. If you have a catcher in baseball for fantasy that steals or hits for power, like it's just extra added to your team. If you have a tight end that is getting 5+, you know,
Yeah.
even targets
Yeah.
again, let alone catches, like, and it's one thing to be a red zone threat. I mean, that's just probably just God given talent. You're going to be a big dude, but it's another to be fully a part of the offensive scheme and move the chains and stuff like that. And there's only a handful or two that do that.
Can I give you my sleeper tight end pick?
Ooh, yeah.
So I'm going off head coach, defensive guy, quarterback controlled the clock, but not like definitely not gonna make plays. Like fine,
Mm-hmm.
one elite option, but with that said, like not a great quarterback. It's gonna kind of the same as Minnesota, gonna get doubled all day. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going rookie Brock Bowers, Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Like if I'm coming in and I'm looking at this, I'm clearly just gonna cover Devontae Adams. You know what I mean?
Right.
And Gardner Minshew, love him, go Cougs, but like he's not going to be like doing these great crazy plays. It's going to be stuff that's drawn up. And Brock Bowers is clearly your number two. And where's he going? 95 overall, tight end 11 in a
Mm-hmm.
12 team league. Like, and people aren't usually double dipping tight ends. You know what I mean? So
Right.
you could basically punt the position and get Brock Bowers at 11. I'm like, that's.
What was the Hard Knocks nickname that
I haven't seen Hard Knocks.
Devontae gave him a nickname in like training camp? It's just like he's all AB all business or something like that.
Oh, okay.
It was so it was interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, that
I'm.
dude looks like he's already a dad with a mortgage and
Those are the
you
best tight
know,
ends, though. You know what I mean? Like
like he needs to get a Rogaine,
that. I,
promo.
I always think of that. I always think of Dallas Clark, indie guy, like taped up fingers and yeah, looked like a mortgage. Like Zach Miller, probably the best Seahawks tight end of all time. Like
Yeah, probably.
yeah, like mortgage. Dude ran like a duck. But oh, people have ever, but like, I just kept making catches, and I'm just like, yeah, you're right. Dudes with mortgages, you know. Sam Laporta, that dude is 23 and has at least one mortgage, 2 kids.
That he knows of. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to switch it up. I want to go back to wide receivers because
Okay.
I mentioned Devontae Adams, and that was kind of one of the questions I wanted to ask you. What do you feel? Where do you rank in comparative to what you're seeing for this? Is Puka Nakua legit? Is Marvin Harrison worthy of the value of where he's going in ADP? And is Devontae appropriate for right around them as well? Like, I don't know what to make of those kind of 3 names because they're top 10, they're 8, 9, 10 in terms of wide receivers.
And top 20 overall.
Yeah.
In a half point PPR is how we're sorting this. Puka, yes. Puka's a dude. Yeah, I especially with in that offense. I mean, all 3 of these are dependent on their quarterbacks playing.
Sure.
At least the first 2. Like if Matthew Stafford goes down, all bets are off with Puka and that's team. But Matthew Stafford plays. Puka's a dude. He's just so good at finding space. Like it's just he just gets football. It's all about IQ. Marvin Harrison Jr. As pains as it pains me, that's more of a dude. Like that's you. The Seahawks drafted JSN a couple years, 2 years ago now, and it was common that he wasn't even close to the best receiver in that wide receiver room, and it was Marvin Harrison Jr. Like for 3 years, they knew at 18 he was the best guy in that room, and like having watched him, I'm like, yeah, Arizona drafted him. I don't want. He's in the division, and I really just want to be like, he's not that good. But there's no. If somebody tells you he's not that good, they're lying. Like he's really that good. It's just going to come down to fantasy wise. Kyler's really off structure, and Marvin Harrison hasn't played in that before,
Right.
and I don't know how that's going to gel, and I don't know that coaching staff wise, like how good of a play caller, how good can Marvin Harrison adjust on the fly? Because CJ Stroud could move a little bit when he played with him, but still he was on time. It was a lot of it was on time. So I don't know. So I think maybe, gosh, talent wise, yes. Structure, no. But I think it balances out to probably about the right spot. Devontae Adams is yes. Devontae Adams is probably, I would say Devontae Adams. This is gonna be a lot of praise. I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is more talented than Devontae Adams, football wise. Devontae Adams has done it though. He's like the best receiver probably in football. Like maybe talent wise, or in his prime probably was. He's still very good. He's 31. So, but this is part of the age where receivers start to dip. I am nervous with that quarterback situation and him being it. I am pretty nervous. Not gonna lie. Again, I'm not sure I love Gardner Minshew. I don't know if that's gonna be enough. I keep him here because the next couple are Drake London, Olave, Deebo Samuel. It's more an indictment on the rest of the 3 versus a stamp of approval on Devontae Adams, if that makes sense. I don't feel comfortable with any of the other 3 to move them ahead of Devontae Adams because their situation isn't as good. They have very serious issues, I think. Obviously, Drake London is like, who is Drake London? Like, I mean, Kirk Cousins will probably help, but like, a whole new staff. I don't know. Olave, Carr. I mean, and Deebo is like, Deebo's simple answer is 3 receivers down is Brandon Ayuk, and then you talked about it, Kittle, and then 1 overall pick, Christian McCaffrey. Like it's just your volume at that and in that offense. Like you're never gonna be an elite guy in that offense fantasy wise just because there's 5 mouths to feed. You know.
Oh yeah.
So
other than and side note, I see it's Deebo Samuel Sr. now, so congrats, he's a father. You know, way to be. Other than like the guaranteed like 3 carries for like 15 plus yards, you know, maybe he breaks one off. Like I always appreciated that when he's on my roster. It's like, oh yeah, and he had 3 carries for 25 yards. That's cool.
Yeah.
So they do add a couple of wrinkles in there extra for him. That's just like a bonus that you don't see for many wide receivers. But
I actually think Brandon Ayuk's the most talented wide receiver on the 49ers right now. But Debo just is more of a freak. I also want to say here, hot take. Where is it? Nico Collins, not the best receiver on Houston. That's my boy Tank Dell. I think Tank Dell is better than Nico Collins. I said it.
Over Diggs, both of them.
Yeah, over Diggs. Diggs at this point in his career.
Sure, but Diggs has the biggest mouth to feed, right? Because he opens it a lot, and he's already working them on preseason. That was like a whole gif.
I if I'm CJ Stroud, I nip that in the butt now and be like, look, I get it. You're this dude, but you play with Josh Allen, still kind of keep you happy. You can go again. Like I see,
I think
you
Stroud's mature enough to try to
put him in his place a little bit. Like I'm a
ride
quarterback.
that line.
Yeah, we're the quarterbacks. Like we decide how this thing goes. And CJ Stroud, like I don't. Man, those three though. If Diggs can check the ego at the door, man, you want to have your receivers have a little ego. I mean, come on though, you got to have them want the ball. You know what I mean? There's guys who shy away, but I'm like he wants the ball, and he's been in the past he's been very good. But I just think Tank Dell is so underrated for what he does. Like he's just really good at football, and I really like Tank Dell.
On this kind of note, I feel like sometimes when I'm in the draft, and again, I am notorious for taking 59 of the 60 seconds. Those type of things is what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
That's the most time that I'm like, okay, if I narrow it down to 2 or 3, players, and something like that is what I'm weighing on in terms of, okay, Houston, can you tell me who the clear number one is? No, I feel like all three could have any given week. How do I quantify that in the draft? Whereas I'm like looking at like, I don't know, somewhere in between all those, I see Zay Flowers. He's
That's
the
it.
dude there.
Yeah.
Neighbors, the dude there.
The only problem with Neighbors is someone's got to throw him a football. But
right,
that's
but
true.
it's just like
Yeah,
you are a wide receiver one, and there's a far distant WR2 on your roster.
Yep.
Do those considerations come into play at any point? And in terms of like early in the draft, later on you're taking flyers, you're just you're having fun with it, and overall it's it's all meant to be fun. But when we're talking our first couple round picks, those are the things that I really weigh on, and I'm probably too much, but like I think I'd rather lean like what was it, Kirk 2 years ago when he first showed up in the Jaguars. I was just like, that's the only guy that I know Lawrence is going to throw to.
Yeah.
That worked out really well that first year. So it's just like one of those things where it's like, I don't know how much it matters, but I feel like it does.
I think it matters if there are three.
Okay.
It's a passing league now, so there's definitely enough for two guys to get 100 plus touches. Seahawks had 100 plus targets for a couple of guys last year and still didn't throw a ton. The issue comes, like you said, with the Houstons. I was just looking at another team, 49ers, not quite Miami. Miami's not, but there was, I was looking at one of them. Oh, Chicago.
Yeah, the Bears. Yeah, I just found
like there's with it at 2, it nicks it a little bit. You know what I mean? Like maybe whoever fights it, but there's 3 guys. That's when it really starts to drag all 3 of them down. But like there's Packers. 2, there's enough balls to feed 2 people for sure. But if there's not, and that includes, and that's such a wide receiver room, that includes an elite tight end. But again, we talked about that with tight ends. I feel like the only mouth you got to feed as a tight end is Travis Kelce. Everybody else can be like, you need to chill. You know what I mean? Like it's Sam Laporta ain't there with Detroit. Trey McBride definitely ain't be like, you got to feed me the ball. Like we just drafted this guy.
Who are you?
Really high. Like settle down. like let's chill. You know what I mean? Like I think other than Travis Kelce, but again, Travis Kelce doesn't have any other dudes around him. So for the most part, that doesn't really matter. So it's those receiver rooms that have 3 options that you really got to kind of be like, man, like that's where it starts to like really hurt. But I also think like to the point where 2, you said, it hurts each other. Again, 1 does hurt because if it's a full point PPR, they're going to give, like neighbors like the screens or something like that. But they're going to have 2 bodies on them. So they'll get the point for the catch, but how many yards and touchdowns are you really going to get other than that? So I just feel like with the 1 receivers, like the Devontae Adams, I just don't know how much he's going to get in actual yards and touchdowns.
Right.
because there's only so many plays you're going to drop for him that you can get him open where the teams haven't seen it. And other than that, it's just like, yeah,
And I can give you the answer, but it's just so case by case. It's really hard to just verbalize that, to anybody listening. But like, if you were to say, "Hey, it's one of the Houston wide receivers or neighbors," I'm like, "Okay, I'm going with one of the Houston wide receivers. That's a high scoring offense. I want a piece of that." So I feel like case by case, I can get there, right?
I mean,
I
maybe
draft
Neighbors
in
looks
that.
really good. I'm just going to be honest.
True,
Neighbors, yeah,
true.
Neighbors, yeah,
But like, just depending, like, if
yeah,
you leverage me for an answer, I can give you one in
yeah,
the 59 seconds out of the 60 that I got to pick. But
yeah,
just overall, just kind of interesting
yeah,
concept of value, really. And that's again, that's what it all boils down to is
yeah. No, I get it. The other one might be Philly. I think between
yeah,
Smith and AJ Brown and Saquon and Goddard, and then Hurts running it himself. It's one of those 49er situations where it might not be three elite receivers or three targets, but it's just like the idea of everything is still going to hurt all of the options, other
right,
than the quarterback, because the quarterback is wherever the ball goes, the quarterback's gonna get the points. You know what I mean? But like
right,
all the positions for those two teams, I feel like get hurt. So as someone who rostered Ayuk a lot, I really enjoyed some weeks. Like you said, I think you rostered Debo. Other
hmm
weeks, man, it really just hurts. Like it just really hurts if they're just decoying him, something like that. You're just like, man.
yeah. Well,
So
shoot,
because
like,
he's good and you can't not play him, but you're just like, man, I hope this week I don't need him. Like so,
but
I still kind of just roll with the talent though. Like you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
you gotta
I'm tired of trying to roll the dice on who's going to be the dude for Kansas City because we know, Pat
at
is
any
throwing.
position, running back or receiver. Like honestly,
Sure, but like
like
I feel like the last couple of years, the wide receiver has been like,
ugh.
oh, that's my dark horse. And like literally, their whole core is the dark horse. Like you just don't know who's going
They
to
just
stay
signed Juju
healthy
again
or
today.
really.
Yeah, like
Goodness,
I don't know, man. I don't know. And the craziest part is it doesn't affect Mahomes that much. Like he just still puts up
it's
numbers.
true.
So that's honestly what's preventing him from being one in fantasy, one or two is like a true elite wide receiver. But he drops down to like two because he just does everything else so well. So it's just you know what I mean. And he just doesn't
Yeah.
run as much. That's it. Yeah, it's just crazy. So yeah, I think we should call it there.
All right, I'm down. Probably get one more podcast in before all the fantasy drafts start for football. Maybe try to break it down a little bit more and like really like to talk about what tiers
Yeah,
usually
yeah.
and definitely a lot of more dark horses. So be on the lookout for that for next week. But that'll be episode 100. Ooh, that's pretty
We'll
cool.
have to do something special.
Yeah. And then as always, we ended with a Dad Bod Player of the Week. Joey Votto comes to mind. I don't know if you had anybody,
No, Joey
but
Votto is it. Yeah,
hanging
yeah.
up the cleats. We salute you, Joey Votto. Man, king of the hit tool, just Mr. Contact, Mr. Plate Discipline, and we still respect you even though you're Canadian. Um, and just a character, just kind of like a relatable, quirky dude.
More personalities in baseball for sure. We need to get more Joey Vottos, less Joey Vottos.
Well said.
Yeah,
Well
yeah.
said. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. We appreciate you listening. Take care, be well, and until next time, see you.
See ya.